Hi, this is Jesse Crosby, the Safe Guru. Today I'm going to go over the construction of safes and then the difference between the composite door and the solid plate door. So majority of manufacturers have all gone to a composite door. Very rarely do you see plate doors being manufactured anymore. Back in the 80s, when safes first started coming out, and the early 90s, you saw a lot of plate door manufacturing taking place. But now, since the price of metal has gotten so high, the composite door has been what really people have switched to. The problem with the composite door, and if you do online research or if you go to big box stores or to safe dealers like myself, the biggest issue is the manufacturer disclosing how this door is constructed. Most manufacturers don't tell you what kind of metal is in this door until you get to their upper end product. So the Fort Knox product, again, I like them the most because they disclose everything in their catalog. This is their entry-level Maverick, and they disclose that it's a 10 gauge on the front and an 11 gauge on the back plate. So what happens is this 10 gauge turns the corner, and then on the back side of this, on the edge, you get 10 gauge plus 11 gauge. So you're solid, you're just under 3/8 thick as far as the metal content. So there's no bend or give to that door because it's reinforced and it's disclosed as far as what metal's being used. The solid plate door speaks for itself. Typically it's 1/4 inch or 3/8 plate. There are some manufacturers you have to be leery of because what they'll do is instead of using a solid plate, they'll take a bunch of individual plates, weld them together so that gives you the look as if it were a solid plate, but they're trying to save money on cost, so they just weld a bunch of smaller plates together to give it that look. So the composite door in general has a bad reputation, again, because majority, over 80% of your U.S. manufacturing doesn't tell you how this door is constructed as far as metal content until you get into their $5,000 or $6,000 model. Then they'll give you full disclosure as to how this door is constructed. So I just showed you me trying to flex the door on a Fort Knox Maverick series, which is their entry level. Their entry level will compete with most manufacturers mid-level. So what I want to show you now is this is a $3,200 safe. You may be able to get it for $3,000 depending on what buyer or safe distributor you buy it from. But I just want to give you an example. This is considered an upper end product line, and there's no disclosure as to how this door is constructed. So if I put my knee into this, you can just watch this door flex. I mean, if I was 50 to 60 pounds heavier, I could probably permanently tweak that door, that metal, and put a bend in it. So it's important to know exactly what's in your door when you're purchasing a safe. Ask, be sure that it's in writing. I always say if it's not in the catalog, if it's not in the dealer's catalog, it's not happening. I mean, I can sit here and tell people all day long that the safes are made of tank steel or submarine steel, and there are customers that would take my word for it, but I prefer to go sell directly from the catalog because the catalog discloses everything. So let's go to the construction of the safes. One of the biggest, there's a couple things that manufacturers do. I'm not a big fan of putting what's called a bolt guide around the bolt. It's a piece of plastic that they put around the bolt. The problem is over time these become brittle and break, and then you'll have all kinds of bolt movement, or these completely fall out. And I've actually had manufacturers where this bolt has fallen in behind the frame because there's no guide for it anymore. So this is a good example here. I mean, you've got a ton of play in there now, and that's with the plastic. So with the Fort Knox product, there's no plastic. The bolt passes directly through the metal, which is nice because then you don't have to worry about play in the bolt. You don't have to worry about if someone's trying to pry into the safe, them getting those bolts to be able to bend because there's actually room for them to bend with that plastic versus coming directly through the metal. So this is another composite door. This is an upper end Liberty product. This is a 10 gauge wrap to a 1/4 inch plate. So Fort Knox, like I said, they disclose exactly how their door is constructed. This is an example of the 10 gauge front plate. This is a 3/8 back plate, but on all their doors, when they wrap the metal around that backside metal, it's much thicker on the edge than it is even on the back side of the plate, which is hugely important because no one's going to be able to pry something like this. Your only way to enter it would be through some type of a cutting device. So let's take a look at some of the inner workings of the safes as far as construction goes. This is a China product. Very simple. You can see the drywall is different colors. The mechanism itself is different colors. So this has just been pieced together. Drywall's been broken, and then they've used some type of, I'm guessing, fire caulk or something that's put that back together with. And so much cheaper product. If you look here, this is supposed to be a composite door, meaning metal, fireboard, and then metal. But as we see, once we take the back panel off, there's only one sheet of metal holding the mechanism in place. There's nothing protecting you here as far as reinforcement or from someone being able to get into it. So more or less, the only thing protecting your valuables is this 10 gauge front or this 12 gauge front plate that sits here on front of this safe. So this is something that I would never sell to a customer. I would never even recommend. Maybe for ammo storage, if you already have something like this and you're looking at purchasing a new safe, this might be good for ammo, but I would never keep anything of value, major value in a safe like that. So here we have a US product as far as the inner workings, and I want you to pay close attention. They're only using a 10 gauge angle iron, and then the bolts that are actually holding, that hold the safe and the door in place when the door is shut are only held on by rivets. And then the mechanism itself, instead of being welded, is just bolted into place. So again, a lot of corners get cut, especially when some of these manufacturers are owned by banks. So shareholders are building these safes. They're not manufactured by someone who's even been in the safe industry for more than 5 years. A lot of it is bank-owned safe manufacturers who are cutting corners because it's saving shareholders money. Anti-pry tabs. Some of these manufacturers say they have anti-pry tabs or pry tabs. All that means is that if someone's trying to pry this door, and if this were to compress, that this pry tab is going to keep it from completely compressing to where the door could be breached. I have a tough time believing that. Being in the safe industry for 15 years, I would bet that doesn't work. So let's shoot over here to the Fort Knox product. So this is the inside of a Fort Knox product. It's gear driven. You can see that the angle iron is much larger. It's 3/16, and then they use a heavy duty bolt that screws into the actual bolt of the safe versus a rivet that can be ripped out or pried out. And then you'll notice the mechanism itself, everything is welded. So there are no bolts or anything to come loose over time. So that's hugely important. As far as the construction of the safe, the other thing that's very important, and a lot of manufacturers don't disclose, is how their body's manufactured or how the safe is built. Most manufacturers can do tack welds, use a lot of Bondo, sand it, paint it, and it's going to look identical. As a matter of fact, I could take a nice Fort Knox and stick it next to 20 imports, and the consumer wouldn't be able to tell the difference as far as the construction because they're that good when it comes to tack welding and bondoing and then painting the product. So the best thing to do is ask the safe distributor or salesman you're talking to how that safe's constructed. Fort Knox is unibody construction, so the body is all one piece. This is all put in with press brake. Huge advantage over a safe that's been tack welded because the security is only as good as the weld. So determining on what kind of metals used, determining how the body construction is formatted by the manufacturer, those are all questions that are important to ask your dealer to find, to get the proper answers when you're purchasing something of this level or magnitude. Thank you.